Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cannon Podcast and the instant reaction to a very comfortable 4-0 win for Arsenal at Portman Road away against Ipswich Town. We saw a Butler Oyedeji Premier League debut. We saw Miles in midfield. We saw all sorts of stuff. I'm excited to break it down with you and always with my boy, George. Hello, sir.
Hello, good sir. How are we doing?
Yeah, that was, I think, the longest 90 minutes of my life. Some Arsenal games go by in a flash, and that felt like about 6 hours. I don't know how else felt. It's a slightly weird game to sort of break down. A really weird atmosphere, very comfortable. I think no shots on target for Ipswich. So yeah, lots of, and I think sort of more broadly, this game fits into a conversation about how we approach the Premier League. And I'm really excited to sort of get into what we did in terms of Trossard, in terms of the substitutions, in terms of different usages of Saka and so on and so forth. And yeah, a lot of sort of tips, I would say, of the hat to that Real Madrid, not the Real Madrid game, the PSG tie coming up. Yeah, overall thoughts to start us off. How did you feel the game was?
I really enjoyed that. I thought the first half was some of the best football we've played this season. And it was the speed in which, when the ball got into the final third, the quickness to which the ball was, and the purpose actually, in terms of it being switched from left to right, from right to left. Some really interesting performances that I think we could talk about. I'm just going to lead with this. Martin Odegaard, sir, that is your best performance since your injury.
Yep.
I said it a couple months ago quite a bit, that Ben White will change Martin Odegaard's life quite a bit when Bukayo Saka was out, and unfortunately we never got to really see that. But we got to see a portion of that today. And that right-hand side, as far as what that pod means, just to some fluidity in terms of Saka's able to ghost back posts. Saka looked brilliant today as well. Everything but the goal. The goal and kind of his output was really poor. His final third output was very poor today, actually, ironically. But a lot of the sharpness, like, did you see that burst past from a standstill from Saka, and people worried about his hamstring impacting him? No, sir, we don't do that here. And for the most part, I thought it was a very controlled, mature performance. Again, I mean, the first half was probably rock and roll, and the second jazz, and that's just what we needed with a big tie coming up. So, from a perspective, I understand why fans maybe thought, it was a little bit boring the second half, and maybe want to end on this as a special shout out, Mikel Merino, who I think has been, along with Fury to an extent, the brunt of a lot of transfer window frustration, as opposed to just fair context. He just looks fit, and it's not a striker thing. It is not a positional thing. This is him actually fit for Arsenal Football Club and being able to show the qualities that he's able to show. I mean, it wasn't just out of possession. I thought some of the things that he was doing in midfield, I mean, the assist that he got from Martinelli was great. I think he always has moments in the box, but it was more so for me what the problems that he's solving in possession, as far as being an outlet in the middle of the park. And I got my Miles in midfield fix. So this is a happy day for George.
It's a good day for you. It's a good day for George. Yeah, we'll certainly come on to more individual performances. I want to go and really sort of hit on Merino, because he's been extraordinary in this back end of this season. Yeah, I was really I thought the first half, especially like the first sort of 10-15 minutes, was some of the best build-up I've seen us play all season. Of course, there is the tax of the opposition, but that's 11v11 against a very well-coached Ipswich side, I would say, even if they don't have the individual quality to back it up. I thought we were the one thing for me today, and I always say this when we play maybe opposition that is less able to stop what we're doing, is you're allowed to see the idea unimpeded, and I think that's what we saw today. And you see the relational movement, the stuff that we do in terms of creating options for each other in possession. The next movement, the next pass, when that ball goes wide to Saliba, let's say, Saka and White and Odegaard are already moving to create that second, third, fourth pass down the line. And all that stuff makes us so fluid. We look so good, I thought, in the first half. And yeah, just completely controlled things. They had absolutely nothing for us. I'm going to look at the stats in a second in terms of the XG, but I doubt it'll be anything over 0.00 or something. So yeah, I thought the performance in possession was fantastic, and out of possession as well. I think there was maybe a couple of individual moments that we could look at in a second, but yeah, it was really pleasing. I think it just became a non-contest basically by about once the red card happened for Leif Davis, which is I don't think is even debatable. It's obviously a red card. The Ipswich fans booing Saka, that you're just bored. You are just bored, lads. It's just as all you are.
Remind you a bit of the Aaron Ramsey and the Stoke booing, valid red card, and then I don't get it.
They'll watch it back when they're at the stadium because they only see it once. They'll watch it back and go, "Oh, it's a really poor challenge."
Is Ipswich the south of Britain? I see a lot of hashtag inbred, and I really don't understand the context of that.
It's in a kind of rural part of it. It's like sort of south east, I think it is. It's in Sussex. So it's in a sort of more rural aspect area of the UK. So maybe
keep it in the family, I guess.
Yeah. I didn't say any of that. If you're from Sussex, I didn't say that. But yeah, there was certainly a little bit of bite in the crowd. But yeah, let's see if we can get the stats up. But also, while I'm talking, let's talk about some individual performances. I think for me, Saka, I want to talk about it and specifically on the individual performances, how this sort of relates to the PSG tie and how we sort of move forward. Because I saw a number of different things for me, and I'll give you the sort of the pick of what we want to talk about. I think we saw the idea with Trossard probably in that first leg against PSG, dropping off the last line, creating the space from the short corners as well. Sorry, without Gabriel, I think that could be a big hit for us. Trossard sort of finding those pockets of space, dropping off. You could see it was very. I think it was quite jumpy as a sort of group of defenders, and it was really working for him. Saka more on the inside. I felt wasn't sort of wedded to that touchline as much. He was inside, and he didn't necessarily have his shooter boots on today. But I think when he did, he will definitely cook. I thought Odegaard, as you mentioned as well, looked unplayable at times. That was absolutely Odegaard's best performance for Arsenal. I think I can remember in 24-25. Yes, tax of the opposition, fine, and it's 10 men or whatever. But if you can get that rhythm and get that confidence, it's great. Mikel Merino, etc. A lot of things that I feel sort of point us towards the Champions League and go, okay, that's sort of what we're heading towards in that first leg.
I think he deserves his own section because I really want to break down the difference between the first half and the second half as far as an Odegaard performance. Okay, in the first 20-25 minutes, the reason that you're seeing this freedom of expression and the opening of passing lanes is because Odegaard has dynamism around him. When he's got active runners in his vicinity, he looks brilliant because this is an intelligent footballer. But when he delays his touch, that's when issues can arise. And in the first 20 minutes, mate, the amount of times that we fired the ball from Zinchenko into midfield and Odegaard does a first-time ball hit out to Saka, boom. Don't compete in the running and transition. That's not the point to get upset with Odegaard. It's about moving the ball quickly, spotting passing lanes early, and those are things that he's brilliant at and genuinely very, very good. And it plays into his strengths. And I think when you've got Ben, who we may have a conversation because I think Timber's had such a brilliant season, but the difference in terms of the final third openness that we do get from a Ben White is something different to Urian. It's not better, but it's just different. I think that it was a major component to what Odegaard probably felt is a lot more freedom because naturally he wants to sit in the pocket and Ben naturally wants to support on the outside. Saka naturally wants to drift on the inside. So from a right-hand side perspective, there's no overlap. There's no people wanting to be in each other's zones. It just naturally works when you've got kind of a Urian Timber aspect to it. Even when he receives the ball out wide, he wants to go for an underlap. And it means whether it's Saka or whether it's Odegaard, he's always going to run into one of those zones. And so it doesn't shock me that he's had, when's the last time we had that right-hand side, which we've all said is the best right-hand side for Arsenal that we've had. Was it back in November that we've had once? I don't think this right-hand side has played more than 5 times together. So, I just think it was a brilliant, brilliant performance by him. Certainly the best for me that I've seen since the injury. And a lot of it had to do with just early decision-making, quick thinking, and being purposeful with his passing and his actions, period. I mean, even in terms of him creating the shot in the second half, he receives the shot. I think the separation touch is a little bit much, but watch what happens. He hits the post because of an early decision to shoot. He makes the decision to shoot early, despite maybe that separation shot being a little bit far from him. So I just think that when he gets in these moods and he's early and he's quick with his actions, he's more potent.
Yeah, I think on the shot point, there was one in the second half where he tries to bend it around Rice, but it doesn't work because it's delayed. It's too late. You can see he's trying to shoot, and when Odegaard goes first time, he absolutely he does do well. Gabby Super Chat says, "Great shout, Alex. Thank you so much." Also, why are the commentators so crazy about the Saka ice pack? NBA players get those, then play the next day. Yeah, look, we're all we're all nervous about Saka. We're all nervous about these things. If we're speaking in reality, players play through all sorts of injuries, all sorts of kicks and frustrations and knee troubles all the time. I think he was fine. I think he wouldn't have come out for the second half if he didn't. I'm not worried about ice. That's going to happen if you have an impact injury like that Leif Davis. It's a really dangerous tackle. Luckily, Saka gets out of it fine. I think he's fine, and he played on, so I'm not particularly worried about that. But yeah, thank you for the super chat as well. I think also just on what you're saying about the right hand side, I think this is something I've said about Timber as well. It's not necessarily a criticism of Timber because it's just not who he is, but I find the blend on the right hand side of Odegaard, White, and Saka is perfect for those three. You have enough running, enough sort of ball manipulation and ability in tight spaces. You have enough power. You have enough whatever. Timber, I think, just makes it just that touch too static for me. It's not his fault because if you had two runners, say inside, he'd be perfect. But it's just that blend of three as a sort of pocket. Let's come to Merino because I think I've been so impressed, and my sort of line on Merino this season has basically been we've signed a £30 million midfielder. As you mentioned, we've been frustrated about the transfer window, and we can't put all that frustration on him and to Calafiori, etc., who's basically playing like a £25 million midfielder, and that's about what we paid for. But right now, George, he's playing like a £50 million striker. His awareness and also his ball winning capacity today, high and early up the pitch, was fantastic for us. I'd love to see that again, maybe against slightly better opposition. But his awareness, I mean, obviously for the goal is the obvious one, but to track runners, to get across people, he's not the quickest. In fact, I think he's clocked the third. He's the third lowest in terms of sprint speeds achieved. In the Premier League. So he's not the quickest, but that doesn't matter if you're aware, if you can spot those runs. And it feels like his, maybe not his body, but his brain has adapted to the speed of the Premier League. He's just earlier to things now, which was one of my big issues. I don't know if you remember early on in the season, I was talking about him as in the second balls. For me, he'd often win the first ball, or he'd compete, certainly. It was the second ball that he couldn't quite get his body there in time, and that was my issue with him. Feels like that issue is slightly clicked, but yeah, he's fantastic for us, and it's a genuine question at the moment. If Kai Havertz was fit, does Kai Havertz start? And that is the compliment you could pay to Mikel Merino, who's a central midfielder.
So I think the point that you make about the second balls is a lot to do with coaching and understanding where you need to be in the press. So he's a brilliant tackler because, mate, we just recruited one of the best duelers in Europe. The last 5 years, Mikel Merino has topped a dueling aspect. And so his tackling technique's phenomenal. This we knew. So from an individual standpoint, if you're asking him to win a tackle, that's muscle memory. That translates league, right? It almost looked like to me, and I kind of said this earlier on in the season, it looks like he's trying to understand where to stand, where to be, and where to go once he loses the ball. And that's from an out of possession standpoint. This is now within him. He's not thinking. He's not actively saying, okay, when I lose, where do I fill in? Where do I go to replace? And it gave the impression that he is maybe slow, lacks stamina, unable to keep up pace with the league. And those were the criticisms where, for me, it was just a pure mental aspect as well as fitness. 100% for me, I maintain you can't start. He started a new league, new team, injured, without a preseason, then was working back to get into shape and learn the system and learn new teammates, whilst, by the way, being moved because he wasn't consistently played in midfield. And he was never able to get a run of games. Now, I do think that an individual that I want to give praise to Merino, because there's a lot of stuff where, as a team, we've really helped him out. Mikel has done brilliantly to spot him as a number 9, but what he individually is doing as far as his in game intelligence is something that I think should be praised extra, in a sense, because this idea that, I have an idea to play U9, the galaxy brain idea of, Mikel or even fans or whatnot, to actually step up and do it, and not even do it just well and competently, but to sit there and actually become one of the top 3 goal scorers in the league since February, genuinely insane. Then when you see that form transition, now he's gone into midfield. His his kind of threat has maintained, but his job has changed as well. That is a very, very useful player. And I'll just end on this. I really felt when he signed, I thought he would give us the Trossard of midfield, in which he would be a very brilliant depth 12th man in midfield, where he would even push to start. He has quality enough, just like Trossard has at points in the season, to do that. And he just hasn't been given the opportunity from context-wise, but I'm just really happy for him that he's been able to show his true form. Because I think, Pete, this was a little bit of, I think, Prem bias, because he's been one of the best midfielders in La Liga for like the last 5 years. And so, look, I think he's doing more than what even I expect. Like, the consistency is insane. But this wasn't a bad player. This was a very good player. Didn't get a chance to preseason in a new team. Is just now being able to show form, but giving us actually a little bit more as well, which is actually what we need. So really, really happy with that.
Yeah, he's done really well. Let's move to the numbers from Scott Willis. 0.3 expected goals for Ipswich, 4 shots, 0 on target, 1 open play shot, 74.7% possession for Arsenal. Passes completed 760 to 258, 19 foul entries to our 70, 102 deep touches to their 9, zone 14 touches 56 to 6. And continuing this trend that we're seeing of Arsenal getting a lot more central access. Yes, I know it's Ipswich, I know, but we're talking about a larger trend here, and you can see the zone 14 numbers definitely increasing. Trampling them all over in terms of the numbers there, and even ahead of them in terms of the press. There's the running XG across the full 90 there. You can see the goals as well that weren't sort of massive chances apart from the second one, which I think was the Martinelli one. Coming to the shot map as well. Some nice chances, again, getting nice and central, sort of between the 6-yard box and sort of restricting Ipswich. I felt probably their only chances sort of came maybe a little bit down our right-hand side. There was a couple of, I can't remember their centre forward's name, but there was a couple of moments where he got a little bit of joy out of Hurst, that's his name. Got a little bit of change out of Saliba and Kivior when he pulled them into the wide areas, but nothing ever really too dangerous. And there it is, 90.3% field tilt.
Is that the best win of the season?
George, Liverpool may be winning the title, but no one cares. No one cares. Because look at this. It's unbelievable. 90.3% field tilt tips, which is 9.7, because that's how maths works. Let's come to this from Patrick Walters, who says MLS in the 6 for the last 20 minutes. Oh, my days. I think I should take this one. Come on, George.
It was really nice to see. I think, if I'm really being fair, 20 minutes is nothing to shout from the rooftops about as far as like big performance. But the biggest compliment I can give to Miles is the game didn't change. Moving him into the 6 didn't result in a suddenly different game to which he was playing. And when we took out Rice, I thought Miles just slotted in perfectly. This is a boy that can play this position. Probably another day to talk about it, because people are going to see the position on the pitch. This is a midfielder by trade, and so it was just nice to see that come to fruition. Not the first time, not the last time, and certainly something that we'll see more of again.
18. He'll play there again. Yeah. Where was there? There's a question from Zianda, who said new set piece routine. I think this is something maybe that might go slightly underrated this game. I think we've slightly adapted without Gabriel. We had a massive chance from Marino, who probably should score that chance in the first half, but then also I think creating some spaces on the short set of piece routines, which was nice. And obviously the Trossard goal comes from that, or the second Trossard goal as well. Trossard, by the way, I mean, we haven't discussed the goals. I think they're both brilliant finishes, and his two-footedness does really, really help us out, Trossard. I think the angles he can create. He's not necessarily, for me, the most, obviously, because of his frame, he's not the most powerful, he's not the quickest or whatever, but his ability to get shots off, because he can go both feet and quickly sort of create separation, is a real skill for us, especially in the center. He's a proper cheat code in terms of getting stuff centrally and getting change out of defenders centrally, Trossard. He always seems to deliver when he plays false 9.
It's important. We're going to need him, because it's probably the likely iteration that we see versus PSG. So I was actually really happy to see this. Look, I think he frustrates because there is a little bit of inconsistency technically, which is like he's so brilliant that there are games where you see he's chasing his touch. Where
Yep.
for me, it's really isolated to one play. He struggles when receiving a pass and going
Switch.
back to goal.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the biggest thing. But if he's facing play, he's in the final third, he's comfortable. And yeah, he was picking up some really brilliant positions, dropping into the pockets, being an extra man and to be an overload. And yeah, he is alive in the box, isn't he? Like as far as his instincts, the feints and the way he's able to sell feints is phenomenal. Like, you know, I think him and Saka are some of the best in the squad at that particular skill. And yeah, he just gets shots off. And I would say for an Arsenal front line that's largely shot shy, somebody that's shot heavy looks great a lot of times, but he's combined that with a really competent technical display today, which I think is all that you need from a kind of that false nine role.
100%. Tavo says rather have Marino Trossard at false nine. Marino is a better passer, and I probably agree with this. I think it depends on the activity. Mikel always talks about. It's interesting. His pre-match he was talking about Ipswich, and he said they have very consistent behaviours. And what I think he was referring to was when that ball goes in, they're very jumpy, Ipswich, and when the ball goes wide, I felt they're very jumpy and keen, but weirdly in position they're quite narrow. So I think that's why we went for the switch. But when you get in centrally, they're really willing to come and meet you. When you do that, and when you have someone who's a false nine like Trossard, who's sort of zipping in and out of pockets, pulling in and out, Marino's more sort of stable and is maybe more reliable in there in terms of holding it up, etc. But Trossard to sort of create spaces and come out and in against that sort of defense, I actually prefer Trossard. And it's nice because you have sort of both. You have sort of two different options. I suspect this is the lineup we'll play against PSG, don't you? This feels like the right apart from the fullbacks. Apart from the fullbacks, yeah.
This for me was just PSG practice.
Yeah, for sure. Let's come to a few more of your questions. Alex with a beard. My beard is looking pretty sexy right now. Has there ever been a new signing under Mikel that didn't need to adapt? Rice was great, but positionally still needed time. Well, no, I think everyone's needed to adapt, and we've talked about this before, but it bears repeating that for some reason, the people in the football world, it's understandable, because, and I'm saying for some reason, it's slightly facetious because Pep's won as many titles as he's won. But what we do is we expect players under a Pep or whatever to have a year where they need to sort of understand the idea. We also and we demand immediate impact from Mikel signings while also asking Mikel to compete with Pep. That doesn't make any sense. Those three things can't hold. Exactly. So it doesn't hold. So I think it just takes a little bit of time, and we've seen that. I think players sometimes can have, like, you know, when Trossard first comes in January, he had like a sort of immediate impact because he wasn't a profile that we had in the squad. But then teams start to work him out a little bit, and I think his impact maybe waned a little bit in the first half of 23-24 because he came in sort of obviously back in 22-23. But I think now he's sort of more useful. But yeah, look, it's always going to need time. I think with Marino, but it's also this thing of like we all want to get married to our takes and say, oh, you know, I can't believe we used to say this. Well, no, we're saying what we see. And the same way with Martin Ødegaard. We're just saying what we see. It's not, see, Ødegaard's proved us all wrong. No, Ødegaard's not been great this season. And today he has been good. So he deserves criticism when he hasn't been great. And he deserves praise when he is. And the same with Marino. When he wasn't quite adapting earlier in the season, you know, you say that's what we're seeing. And today he's been, and sort of the last couple of weeks, he's been terrific. So it's credit to the coaching staff because they put the time in on the, you know, on the grass ultimately in the week, and we see the benefit at the weekend.
So you're saying for fans to touch grass, essentially?
I'm saying get off the internet. Tavo Ruiz says, if Calafiori is fit, I'd start him as left back and Miles in midfield, but have Cala be the player who crashes the opposition box and Miles be more defensive. Yeah, there's something in this which I quite like. We'll probably talk more about this. We've got a main pod coming out tomorrow, but obviously we've got another whole week until the PSG games. We'll talk more about this and how we'll sort of approach PSG, but I do think there's something in Calafiori and Miles and how you sort of work that in and out of possession. But yeah, we'll talk more about that. Maybe someone we haven't spoken about is Ben White. Not massively anyway, outside of the pod. Individually, what did you make of his performance?
Still very rusty as far as game time goes, but I just thought working himself into those overlaps, which are brilliant, and his crossing variety in the final third is something that we just don't have from that position at right back. And you could just see, like, in moments, there's times when he was flat-footed as far as being on his toes, and that's just rhythm, game rhythm, match fitness. So from that perspective, like, you see the rustiness, but just so nice to have him back on the pitch, to be honest. And he gives you, again, they're just very different fullbacks, and people want to do player wars, but fundamentally, I think Ben gives us something that we just simply don't have. Someone naturally who wants to be in that fifth lane, and there's a lot of players on that right hand side that want to be central. Ethan, Odegaard, Saka, Timber when he's in the final third. There's a lot of people that want to be on the inside, and Ben is somebody that naturally wants to be on the outside, can threaten from those positions. And one thing that I think is going to go very undernoticed, but I'd encourage people to do a rewatch and see, his switches from right to left were incredible. Like, this is something that he's always been able to do. Even when he first arrived back in his first year playing center back, like, one of the standout things that he was able to do was that right to Aubameyang switch. And I just think from, we didn't quite see it in this match, but he's also got that half space crossing that we don't have. So there are skills that he opens up in the final third that, Urian can't. And then vice versa, when we're talking from a defensive point of view, Urian's the best lockdown defender in Europe. So it's really brilliant to basically have this cheat code where whatever opposition you have and whatever, tactic you want to use for the day, you can. And you've got two brilliant players that are able to step in. Like, that's the definition of genuine competition. And it's something that you, in theory, from like a coaching perspective, want in every position.
Absolutely, and it's such a blessing. Like, people are going, "Oh, White needs to move on this summer." No, let's keep this for as long as we can, because Saka, Timber can play multiple positions, White can play multiple positions. There's various things. So yeah, it's nice to see. That's what it does to the Premier League table. Arsenal still in the hunt. Absolutely not. We're still 10 points behind, but Liverpool I don't think they can't lock it down against Leicester. I think they have to go one more before they can win the Premier League. So well done, Liverpool. Do you know what's exciting?
Though? For top four.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about that in a second. But do you know what's nice? I don't think anyone cares Liverpool are winning the league. I think most Arsenal fans, this is my theory at the minute, I think most Arsenal fans really cared in sort of January, February, and were really frustrated because we were post the window where we'd not done anything. There was a lot of frustration. There was so many injuries. Saka wasn't in the team, etc., etc. I think, like, since Saka's been back, since we've all kind of been through that grieving process, accepted basically Liverpool are winning the league, the European competitions are way more fun, way more interesting games, way more to talk about. The race for Europe is way more interesting. There's no relegation battle. I think basically Liverpool are going to win the league, and about 10 people outside of Merseyside are going to care. At this point, I think the morning has been done.
Yeah, they want people to care more, and it's one of those that I think we're going to look back on in retrospect, depending on how things work out this season. The narrative of this season as a whole, as far as the title race is going to go, is going to take huge pendulum. That's all I think I'm going to say. Like, Arsenal do something special in Europe. Not the excuse-o-meter, but if you want to do, I think Scott Willis has the win-o-meter or whatever he's got. I think the excuse-o-meter will be very swayed depending on how Arsenal do in the Champions League.
Yeah, no, for sure. And final question for you all in the chat, but also for George as well. We're gonna give our predictions. Who will be from 3 to 5 in the Premier League? Who are your final 3 who get the Champions League places? Please, we'll start with George, then we'll come to as many as we can in the chat.
I genuinely don't know.
Okay,
I'll give you an opinion. I'll give you an opinion. This to me is some of the tightest races that I've seen in so long. I don't know if Newcastle are guaranteed top Champions League places by what people are thinking. If you have a look at their fixtures in terms of who they have left, it's not easy. And I think all of that top 7, so to speak, and from 3rd to 7, they all kind of play each other in a way. And that was a huge result today for Chelsea. Chelsea losing is going to be, would for me have resulted in them kind of slipping out of this race, but they've got themselves within it. Look, I actually do think that Forest are actually going to get 3rd. in the end. And I think that we'll see Forest. I think that we'll see Manchester City. And I do believe that we will see I think Chelsea will do it. And I don't think they'll do it through good play. I think they will scam their way through some victories with some individual performances coming back. And I really feel that that's kind of going to be the top 5.
So you think Newcastle are dropping out? They're going 6th?
I do.
He does.
If you haven't looked at their fixtures,
I want to speak this into reality if we can. They're at home against Ipswich. They're away against Brighton. They're at home against Chelsea. They're away against us on the penultimate game week, and then they are at home against Everton.
Those last 3 games, mate.
Yeah, that's tough. Let's hope, because I think we all know what I want. Yeah, I think Newcastle will get top 5. I think City and Chelsea. I think it'll be quite obvious. Unfortunately, I would love Forest to do something. I'd love Fulham to do something. I'd love Bournemouth to do something. But unfortunately, I think it'll be the obvious picks. Not sure what order. But yeah, I think I see Newcastle dropping down a bit, but I think I can see them getting top 5, which is frustrating. Who are we saying? Reem at the Frog says City, Newcastle, Forest, and Spurs will win the Europa. Newcastle, City, and Villa, says Awenja. I need Forest in the top 5, says Calder. Alex Osborne says Newcastle, City, and Villa. And Alex with a beard says, I don't like Chelsea and Newcastle. Fair enough, mate. Final super chat from Patrick Walters, who says, for George's Wi-Fi, switch to Bell, bro. Yeah, we're going to have a conversation after this about your Wi-Fi. There's been some up and down. But thank you for the contributions to the George Tech Fund. We appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. We will, of course, be back for our main podcast when you're watching this or listening to this probably tomorrow. So on Monday. Then we'll be back for an instant reaction post Crystal Palace. And, of course, we'll be here for the PSG game. George's PSG defence lands on the day of the PSG game. He can't watch it.
I know.
I'm
so pissed.
That is
I'm going to be off social media anyways. Like, I'm going to be very, very focused. So, but... yeah, I don't think I'm going to open my phone until Wednesday.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, George.
Thank you, good sir.
And thanks for keeping Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.